All right. Good morning, everybody. We left off yesterday. We started a new parak. The cats they were not paying attention yesterday. Like I said, I don't have my laptop, so I don't really see necessarily who's on. But either they were not paying attention, which could be possible, or they were not here. But either way, we started a new parak yesterday on Kuf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. And we got to two dots in the bottom. So we discussed, just going back on our Mishnah. Mishnah was discussing actually two issues. One, of taking a strainer and putting up a strainer which could have potential binyan issues, right? Being baina to make a structure, right? And part of being baina is making an ohel, a tent. So perhaps is this similar to making a tent, which is forbidden or not? Can you do it on Shabbos or Yom Tov? Another issue is the straining itself. Are you allowed to go ahead and strain the wine, pour the wine in like through this strainer, through this bag? And it basically sort of, the wine goes through, the sediment sort of stays back. So that was a discussion of the concepts we're discussing. And the Chum said, actually, it says, you're not allowed to go ahead and hang it up, right, on Yom Tov. And you can't do it on Shabbos, but you can go ahead and put it in the strainer on Yom Tov. So let's see the Chum. So 2 lines from the bottom on Daf Kuf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. Today's Kuf Lamed Ches. So it says, the question says, Tola Mai. So if one goes ahead and put the strainer up, so what is the halach there? So Amar Rav Yosef, Tola Chayiv Chatos. Says Rav Yosef is Chayiv Chatos, and he's Chayiv Midoraisa. It's considered to be making an ohel, and he's chayiv. So I'm really Abaye, Elmiata, Tola Kuza, Besichsa, Hachinami de Chayiv. What? Says Abaye, it doesn't make sense. Well, you hang up anything on the wall, you put something on pegs on the wall, right? You hang a jug or a container on the wall, you should be chayiv chatas. Doesn't make sense. Hanging things up is not a chayiv chatas. So why is it chayiv chatas? So Ella, Amar Abaye, rather Abaye is a different answer. Turn the top of the page. Midrabanan, he shalo yasa kederch shlo yisa b'chol. So he says, no, it's really only midrabanan because we don't want a person to act in the way that he usually does during the week because it might lead him to doing a malacha, whether it's coming to go, he might lead him to strain or it might lead him to do building. There's a machlokes as to what it might, the derabanan is, the gzera is here, but it's a derabanan shelo yaseh kederech shelo yaseh b'chol, in order not to go ahead and act like he does during the week. So mankit, Abaye chumrei masnisa v'tani. So Abaye collected a bunch of chumreis or halachas of brises, and he taught hagud. So hagud is a case of basically a leather bag which is used to carry liquids, and used to go ahead and hang it up and open it up in order to go ahead and I guess allow the air to come in. But used to go ahead and hang this bag, or v'hamishameres, and a mishameres was basically a strainer. That was we discussing in our Mishnah, right? Telling us the mishameres, right? The kilo is like a kilos chasanim, is sort of like a tent, and it sort of goes up little canopy or whatever that's built, and v'chisei galin, and the chairs of galin. So a chair of galin. So what is that? They used to take those apart and build them up. So if one goes and uses these, lo yasa, he should not go ahead and use these on Shabbos or Yom Tov, and if he does it, he's pater v'alosa. Knows he's not chayiv chatas, only asim midrabanan, but not chayiv a chatas. However, oile keva lo yasa, a person should not go ahead and make a permanent tent. And if he does, chayiv chatas. If he does that, then he is chayiv chatas. Aval mita v'kisei tarskil v'asla. But a bed, just basically, they used to not so much space indoors, so they used to go ahead and basically put their beds up, and then time to go to sleep, they would, bring the beds back down. So to bring the bed or these different types of folding chairs or toilet, right? All these cases for like toilet seats. Mutter to go ahead and take them down. You put them down or take them up. That is not a problem. That is mutter l'chachila. And then we said, again, go ahead and hang it up on Shabbos. A person who goes ahead and does the strainer on Shabbos, what is halacha? So Amar Rav Kana, shimur chayiv chatas. Says Rav Kana, he's chayiv chatas. And mask of Rav Sheshes, meika media derabanan mechayiv chatas. Rabbi Eliezer shar l'chachila. Now, is there something that one opinion holds that Rabbanan hold they're chayiv chatas? In other words, the Torah says you're not allowed to do it, and Rabbi Eliezer says it's muter l'chachila. Right, and now usually there's a middle ground, right? There's asur deraisa, asur midrabanan, and then mutter, right? Completely mutter, right? So, but over here, we're like the two extremes. One is Asa Daraisa, and the other one is Mutter, right? Mutter Midaraisa, Mutter Midarabanan. So, why is this? Maybe there should be a middle ground. That one of the sheetas, if Rabbi Eliezer holds is Mutter l'chachila, as he said, you're allowed to go ahead and do it. So, how could you possibly say it's chayvachatas? So, Master Rabbi Yosef Alamala. Why now? What's the big deal? Hare Ir Shel Zav, right? We have a case of Ir Shel Zav. It's like an ornament to these, like a sort of a tiara that was worn. The Rabbi Meir mechayiv chatas, and over there, Rabbi Meir says one goes ahead and wears this chayiv chatas for carrying. The Rabbi Eliezer shar l'chachila. Rabbi Eliezer says no, it's mutter to wear l'chachila. Person's not going to go ahead and take it off. So Mahi, where's this machlok? It's the Tani learn in Brisa. Loiteitze isha be'ir shel zav. A woman should not go out with this ornament of ir shel zav. That's what the name of it was called. Right? It looked like a city of Jerusalem, of a city of gold. The imyatza. And if she does go out, chayeves chatas divrei Meir. If she does go out, then she's chayev chatas. That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim Ma'imrim say she should not go out. But she shouldn't do it. Really, midaraisa, it's really mutter. But midarabanan, they say you shouldn't go ahead and do it. So therefore, she does it. She's not chayv chatas. And Rabbi Eliezer, she is mutter midaraisa. It's mutter drabanan. She can go out. So what do you see from here? The opinion of Rabbi Meir is aser midaraisa, and the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer is it's mutter even midarabanan lechatchila to do. So you see that there does exist such machlekes. So right? Is Rabbi Eliezer going on Rabbi Meir in the case of Ir Shel Zav? No. Damar chayv chatas, right? Then is he talking? Is he basically arguing with Rabbi Meir, who says that chayv derais, and he comes in and says, no, you're not chayv chatas. Rather, it's mutal chafila. Ad Rabbanan, he's only actually coming to argue the Rabbanan. Damri patav al-asr. They say it's patav al-asr. He says, no, it's even mutter. And he says mutter. So the truth is, this teres does not make that all much sense, right? Taisos actually doesn't even understand it, right? He says lo yoda Rabbi Mai Kamishani, right? Doesn't understand what he's answering, right? Because l'chayr over here, there's still a ma'isa. There still exist two shitas that are polar opposites, right? One is chayiv d'oraisa, and the other one is mutter even midrabanan. So nevertheless, but we see that there is other cases where that does exist, such as the case of Ir Shel Zav, and also too in our case, we'll say that if one goes ahead and strains, right? One opinion is according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's mutter l'chachila, and according to the Rabbanan, which say you're not allowed to do it, they hold, or according to the opinion Rav Kana who explained it, they are chayiv chadas. So now, mishum mai matrinan be. Now, one who goes ahead is chayiv. Now, you have to be warned, right? You have to be warn a person. So a person's about to go ahead and strain. So what do you warn him for? What is the malacha that he does? So Rabbi Mamishu Bayra. He says Bayra, right? You're separating, you're sorting. You're sorting the sediment, right? The dregs from the wine. And Rabbi Zeir Amar Mishum Maraki, he says you're sifting, right? By putting in the bag, you're sort of sifting and letting the good stuff, come down, and then the bad stuff stays up there. So Amar Rabbi Kvasi Didi Misabri, Rabbi says no, like means more logical. Just like that, one selects and he takes the good and he leaves the bad. So over here, right, you take the good, you take the wine, and then you leave the pseilas, right, the stuff that you're not going to go ahead and use. However, many argue with actually have this difficulty with this Gemara because really Bora is opposite. Bora really is that you take the bad and remove it from the good. Right, it's not you're not taking the good to eat it, right? You're actually you remove the bad and then you're just left with the good. So that's why some don't like the explanation of Rabbah. And Rab Zera says Kvasi Didi Misari says no more like me. Just like one person sifts, right? He sifts and the smaller, finer grains and flour falls through, and the larger, coarse ones on top stay on top. So to over here, the psolas is on top, right? The dregs and the stuff, the pieces in the wine remain on top in the strainer, and then the good wine falls through. Fine. So Tani Rami Bar Yecheskel Talis Kafula Lo Yasa. A person should not go ahead and take a talis and fold it over on 4 different posts and make a covering Lo Yasa V'Masa Pater V'Asa. But if he does it, he takes basically a cloth or some sort of large cloak or something, a talus. If he does it, he's pater v'aser. But let's say it was tied to it. Let's say it was tied to a string there, and basically you have 4 posts and it was tied there, and you're able to sort of almost like a handle, like pull like the string, and then it covers, right? Some sort of like contrivance that basically by pulling the string, because it's already tied on there, and then it just covers it, and then you pull the string back, and then it uncovers it. That is mutal and taisa l'chachila. That since it was set up before Shabbos in this way, so therefore it's not considered to be new constructing a new ohel. Rather, therefore it's mutter, even though you're now covering it for the first time and uncovering it, it would be okay, right? Similar to a shlach by a sukkah, right? A lot of people have it that you pull the cover over, you pull there, so you're not really constructing a new ohel, right? It's just something which is already attached, and you're pulling a rope or a string that brings it across. So Baimine Rav Kahana me Rav Kila Mahu. What about a kila, right? A kila is, like we said earlier, like a tent or a type of canopy, right, which is sort of a pointy, right, a pointy top like this. Oh, hands are straight, right? So a pointy top, right? It goes over here and it comes up. So a kila mahu. So Amalei af mita asura. He says even a bed is asur, right? So mita mahu. So what's halach by a bed? So now to put a bed, right, is aser. So mita mahu. So I'm af kilo muteris. Not only is a mita muter, but even a kilo is muteris. So we have to understand what's going on here. And kilo mita mahu. And what about a canopy and a bed mahu? And what's halach there? I'm kilo asura. Mita muteris. No, the kila, the canopy is aser, but the bed is muteris. What's going on here? It seems like three different opinions: both muter, both aser, or the canopy is aser and the bed is muter. So lakash, it's not a contradiction. Had to come af mita asura. That which we said, even the bed is aser. That is kida karmenai. Right, that is like those the karmenai. They used to go ahead and basically. I believe they would go ahead and build and rebuild their different the beds. In other words, they would take them apart and then rebuild it. So by rebuilding it, it's similar to Baina, and therefore to go ahead and construct and to rebuild these things, therefore, the Rabbanu, we say, a person should not do it because he might come to go ahead and build a permanent structure. And how to come af kila moteres, that which she says like a kila's moteres is a kalam Cheskel. Like that's Ram Cheskel, who just earlier that if there was a rope tied to the canopy, let's say there was a canopy that was set up, and all you got to do is pull the rope, and basically like the cloth, goes over it to covers it. So therefore, since it was already set in place, all you're doing is pulling the string. Therefore, that would be mutter lechatchila, and so to a bed, just taking a bed which is already constructed and just bringing it down, that would be mutter. And that which you say kila asur mita materas kedidina, that's like the ones we have, right? A canopy nowadays, right? To go ahead and build a canopy which is more sloped, then that would be asur. Kila asur mita, the bed, just taking a bed and putting it down without basically constructing the roof would be mutter. And Amar Rav Yosef Chazina Luhu Lekile Debe Rav Huna actually saw that I saw the canopy in the house of Rav Huna, the Orsa Nagidu Mitzafra Chavita Ramya Mitzafra Chavita. So he said that he saw that the what's it called, the canopies in the house of Rav Huna, that in the evening that they were up, in the morning they were down. So it must be that in the morning they threw it down, they took it off. So because you're allowed to go ahead, they were able to take it off. They were able also to go ahead and put it on, because anything you can take down, you can demolish, you can build, and therefore it must be that perhaps the Rav Huna was using the ones with the ropes that you basically just pull it across, because it was already sort of measured out. To fit that space, on the by the four corners by the stakes, and therefore be mutter. Amerav mishum Rab Chia vilon mutter, to go ahead and put a vilon, right, to put basically like a window or something which is is not horizontal but is more perpendicular, like a wall. That is mutter. The mutter l'taisa, mutter l'perka, mutter to put it up, mutter to take it down. You want to put up a wall or some sort of mechitza or sheet or something like that, then it'll be mutter. Because it's not an ohel, right? You're not making any form of roof. The Omar Shmuel says Shmuel Mishum Reb Chia Kilas. Turn the page. Kilas Chasanim Mutter Lintaisa. Right. So a canopy. Now that perhaps that should be this. All right. So we say a canopy Kilas Chasanim is Mutter Lintaisa. It's mutter to go ahead and put it up. Mutter Lifarka, and go ahead. It's mutter to also to go ahead and take it down. So it's mutter to go ahead and. So we said before that we were just talking about canopies, right? Could be ones that actually had a roof, right? If canopy, basically, the old time beds that they had, they were, with a cover. So there was the bed on the bottom, and there was like a sheet or something on top. So those cases, that was an ohel. So if you have a kila with an ohel, that would be usr. But if you have a kilas chasanim, which is one which is sloped, right, like this. Kilas chasanim is mutter l'taisa or mutter l'parga. It's mutter to go ahead and put it up and mutter to take it down. Because since in this case there is no roof, it goes up and it goes down, and there's a peak, right? And the peak is pointy, and therefore, since there's technically no roof, it's basically two walls, right? When you have a canopy, right? Normally, what you have two walls and a ceiling on top, right? That's a normal canopy. But so therefore, that would be usher, because when you put the two walls and something on top, that is an ohel. That is a temporary tent, and therefore that's similar to bona. But if you have two walls, right, and they're just slanted to another, slope to one another, so therefore there's no roof. There's just two walls. Therefore, it would be mutter. It's mutter to put it up and mutter to take it down. Amar of Sheish is B'rei Davidi lo Amra Nela Shein Begaga Tefach. We don't say only if there is not, if it's not roof, right? No, where it means on top. Let's say it bends a little bit, right? They're sloped, and it bends a little bit on top. In other words, that which basically, the canopy over, you have like a 2x4 or even one tefach wood on top, and you have it basically sloped over it. If that thing which is in the middle is at least a tefach, it will be usher. That is called a gag. But if it has within the roof, there is a tefach, then it would be usher. And even if there is no, by the roof, there is no, right, the top part, it's not a tefach wide. It's only motor. That's only where. Now, there's actually a good picture in the art scroll. Those you have it. The second picture, the one on the right side, this one over here. Right, I don't know if you can see it. This one right here. Right. So over here, what's going on there? And now it's only if within. Right, so it says within 3 tefachim of the peak. Okay, so from the top, within 3 tefachim, the width is not a tefach, because if we say it's within 3 tefachim, right? But if within 3, right, it's wide, right? It's wide enough that this is at least a tefach down here. Then, because this is 3 and 3, we say love it over here. Therefore, it's basically, we don't look at it anymore like this, right? We look at it almost like it's flat, like it's going across, and it's going across. If it's at least a tefach, then therefore there's your roof. So in other words, as long as the narrow part within 3 tefachim of the top point, when it goes down, 3 tefachim down is less than a tefach, there is no tefach roof. But if it's already a tefach, then we do say that is the roof, and therefore this kilas chasanim would be aser. And we'll also and also we say that which part comes off of the post in the middle, right? If you look the third picture, right? The third picture, if it comes off less than a post of a tefach, then it's fine. But if we say it is wider, right? The slope is wider. It has to be very narrow slope. But if the slope is wider, right, then we say that basically, since the walls are, they're not straight up, they start to slant. All of a sudden, right? At what point does it become a ceiling, right? An ohel, right? There has to be some point. So it says this is a very machmir opinion. According to this one, if the slant, each side is slanted from the bottom, right, the base of this triangle, if the base is at least a tefach, that is called a gag, that is called a roof, and not a wall, and therefore would be aser, right? But this is machlokes, another Gemara, and according to this opinion, it goes according to the Machmer opinion over here, which holds that if at all the base is more than a tefach, you would be chayv for building a roof. Right? Therefore, then the slant of the ohel is just like an ohel itself. Also, if it doesn't hang below the bed, so if you have the bed here and you have the canopy on top, right? As long as there is no some of the material hanging below the bed, because all of a sudden now you have a bed here, and all of a sudden you just built walls to your bed. But if you do that, but if now you have some of the materials and the walls hang below the bed, a tefach, then it would be aser. Fine, 2 dots. The Emperor of Sheshes B'rei Ravidi, hi Sina Shari. This Sina, right? It was a hat, right? A big floppy hat, right? Could be a Borsalino. It's mutter to wear. We learned a hat with a brim is aser. Like kasha had the east tefach, had last tefach. If there is a tefach, if your brim is at least a tefach, then all of a sudden that's called putting an ohel, make an ohel. But if there is no tefach, if you have a little short brim, then it's no problem. I understand if I take my cloak, right, and I put it over my head, all of a sudden now it's more than a tefach away from my head. That is considered to be making an ohel arai, and therefore there should be aser, right? No, it has nothing to do with making an ohel. Before, like we said, between one tefach and not, it has to do whether the hat is on good or not. If the hat is tightly secured on the head, then it won't come off. Therefore, the person won't come to go ahead and carry it. However, if it's loosely on, right, it's too big, it's too small, and so with even a light breeze, it'll come off. The person might come to carry it. A person might come to carry it. That was the case where we said it's also. So it has nothing to do with the size of the brim, whether an ohel. Rather, the issue is as to whether it will fall off, and a person will go ahead and carry it. Fine. Shalach le Rav Cheskel Rav Huna emalon easy hinach milid mal yos demar la mishmei Rav. Right. So he sent him a message. Tell us, right, these great things, these great halachas that you said in the name of Rav. So tarti b'Shabbos v'chad b'Torah. One of them was regarding halachas of Shabbos, and one was regard of limud Torah. So shalach le ha detani, that which learned good b'kista mutter, that which we said, we saw this earlier, the bag they used to go ahead and I guess carry liquids in, and when they would stop, they would go ahead and hang it up in order to sort of, and open it up to sort of air it out, right? It basically, stretch it out and hold it up by its edges. So that what you said, the good bekisas mutter, the tois of a Shabbos, to go ahead and mutter to put on a Shabbos. That was loishanu, samarav, loishanu ela b'shnei b'nei adam. That's only we're talking about two people because they're not going to go ahead and stretch it completely. Val b'yadam echad, aser. But one person, then it would be aser because then he's going to go ahead and stretch it, right? And in such a case, and therefore that is more similar to building, and therefore that would be aser. And Amar Rabbi and Abai said, kilo, but when it comes to a canopy, I feel about so even 10 people, because the canopy, when you go ahead, you always stretch it out. So therefore, since you're stretching it out, therefore, even if it was 10 people, right? Because over here we say, 2 people is motor, so even 10 people is still aser. And it's impossible that they didn't go ahead with 10 people, go ahead and spread it properly. And Idach Mai, what was the other halacha that he said by Shabbos? So the Tanya learned Raisa, Kira, Shanishpita Achas Mikosel, Mutal and Taisa. If you have an oven, right? An oven would normally just muksa, you can't go ahead and cook from it or bake from it on Shabbos. But you're allowed to go ahead and move it. Let's say you need it for a certain area. So if you have one of the legs fall off, so it's still considered to be a functional oven. So therefore, it's mutter to move it on Shabbos. However, Shtaim, if his 2 legs are broken, then it's aser because now it basically loses its status of an oven, and therefore it's not a kli anymore, and therefore it's completely muksa. And Rav Omer, and that Rav says, afilu chanamias, even if it's 1, it's aser. Why? Gzeira shemitaka. A person might go ahead and fix it, and therefore that would be the reason to aser. Now, what do you say about Torah? So, Damarav, asido Torah shitishkach misrael in the future. Torah will be forgotten from Israel, from Bnei Israel. Shnei says, "V'pala Hashem es makusecha." So it says there, right, that Hashem he'll basically give you big. Hashem will give you wondrous blows. What kind of blows? Hafla mahu. I don't know what this hafla means. When it says over there, when he goes to the people. Right, I guess I'll give them additional. Right, he fella pella. It says over there when it talks about chachma, haviyomer hafla zotayra. So that pasuk over there is referring to, right? It says v'avda chachma of binas nevaina tistater. That's just reading the end of the pasuk in Yeshaya. So over there we see that this concept of the hifla or hafla is referring to Torah. So it says over there, Hashem basically will give you a makkah that has to do with Torah. What's the makkah? The makkah is that they will forget all the Torah will be forgotten. So Tanur Rabbanan was taught the Keren B'Yavne when the Keren B'Yavne to teach. After the Churban says Asido Torah Shidishkach Yisrael. In the future, Torah will be forgotten from Bnei Yisrael. Shnei the pasuk says. As a pasuk, we're going to read some psukim in Amos. Right? The 2 psukim there in Amos Ches, psukim Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. So it says over there, "Hine Yomim Ba'imnu Hashem the shlachti rav ba'aretz. He said, days are coming, and I'm going to send a famine, a rav ba'aretz, lo rav lelechem, lo yitzam l'mayim, ki nishmas divrei Hashem. And it has nothing to do with a famine of water or with food, right? Rather, it has to do with the words of Hashem. Ksiva says, if there are no mayim miyom ad yom, mitzvah mizrach, you'll search, right? You'll go ahead and from sea to sea and north to south, and yishaytu levakesh dvar Hashem v'lo yimatzo. And they're going to go ahead and wander to go ahead and find the words of Hashem, and they will not find it. And what is this davar Hashem? So we see other places what davar Hashem refers to. So zo halacha, first one is straight halacha, right? Being able to ask no halacha, and dvar Hashem is a kates. Another area we see that dvar Hashem is referring to a kates, referring to the time of Mashiach when it is that will also be forgotten. And dvar Hashem is that nevuah, also nevuah. There won't be nevuah. So all these things will be lost and forgotten. What does it mean? They'll look around to request the Hashem. So Amar Asila Isha Shatito Kikar Shashuma. Oh, it will be so simple. Even a woman will go ahead and take a loaf of bread, which is truma of a tafs about Knessia, so about Joshua the other Tamehi, if it was in an oven which was tame, and she'll ask, is this loaf of bread tame or tahor? And they won't know, right? There's such a question they won't be able to answer in the future. So Gemara says, what do you mean? How can you say they won't know such a halacha case, right? If you have a loaf of bread in a tame oven, and it was truma, of course it's tame, right? We know that the pasuk says, we learn it from the psukim, you don't even need to know anything, you just open the Torah and you see in the pasuk. Rather, maybe she'll ask, hey, is this a Rishon Latuma or a Sheni Latuma? And she won't know. So Gemara says, this is also Beferish a Mishnah, right? They know how to read Mishnah. Is the time we learn the Mishnah. Hasher Sheninza B'Tanur, Hapas Shebeseicha Shniava Shatana Tchilo, right? That if you have a sheretz which is found inside an oven, so the oven becomes a Tchila, it becomes a Rishon, and the pas and the bread is a sheni. So over here, it's obvious that if the sheretz was if it was in a tame oven, which became tame, it's not it's what's it called? It's not a. It's only rishon l'tuma, right? It's not avatum. It's only rishon l'tuma, so it should become tame. So obviously, it's a sheni. So God says no. Maybe you'll say like that the question of Rav Ada bar Abba. So he said, hi, tanur command demali tuma, but tevi pas rishona. Maybe it could be that we consider the oven not a rishon, and therefore anything inside is a sheni. Maybe the entire oven is basically considered like one rishon, making everything inside it, and therefore maybe the pas, since the bread inside it is just like the tanur, the bread is also considered to be rishon, just like there's a sheretz, and the oven, right, which is enclosed inside the oven, is considered a rishon, and then because that's a rishon, we said that the bread is a sheni. Well, maybe it could be that the same way that the oven is becoming a rishon, so too, since the bread is inside next to the sheretz, right, it also becomes a rishon. Samarlei, lo yamrinan. No, even that we wouldn't say. Why? Let's say hi tanur command demali tuma, because maybe we'd say we won't say that we view the tanur is filled with tuma. The Tanya is in the Bryce, so the pasuk says yochel yukol kelim atamin ba'avir klicheres. You might think that all kelim should be considered to be like everything there, and therefore is considered to be like the klicheres will be the rishon tam. But it says kol asher b'seicha yitami mikol oichel asher yechel. It says oichel mitam ba'avir klicheres ve'ein kelim mitam ba'avir klicheres. Only the oichel has to come in contact in order for an oichel to become tame. It has to come in contact. So since the sheretz is not touching the loaf, it can't become tame like that. But when it comes to the tanur, since it's inside the tanur can become even without contact, even when it's inside. So therefore, that case actually would be not. That case is answerable, but maybe that was the case they were mixed up upon. But the halacha there is, it would definitely not be a rishon, because only the kli, the oven itself, can become a rishon, and not the sheni, and not the bread, and the bread is a sheni. And the one last line, Satanya, we learn in Bryce, it says there, Rabbi Shimon chas v'shalom that Torah should be found for Yisrael. Shnamar, as the pasuk says, Kila tishkach mipi zaro. It won't be forgotten from the mouth of your descendants. Elamani mekayim yishtayt levakesh devar Hashem. What does it mean? They'll go ahead and wander around to seek and find the word of Hashem. V'loim so shaloim. What does it mean? V'loim so you won't find it. Shaloim so halacha berura. They won't find a clear halacha without machlekes u'mishnah berura and clear mishnah b'makom echad in one place. And how is that? Because of that, that's what it's saying in the future, that things will sort of be mixed up, and not that it'll be completely forgotten. All right, well, shkayach, we'll stop here at the 2 dots at the top line. Everyone have a wonderful day and stay safe.